Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Well, yesterday I did a video about the mainstream media and I basically called them fools. And you can see the thumbnail for that video right here. And I'll attach that same thumbnail to this video. What it was about the fact that we are led, or they attempt to lead us and influence our opinion and how we think and feel about things like political parties, the world at large, other countries, and so on and so on and so forth. And where the world is becoming a smaller place by virtue of the fact we have all these different social media channels and all these different avenues of finding out information, they don't have the same iron rod grip on the narrative as they once had. And I think they absolutely hate that. If you're not fooled any longer by the mainstream media, then please subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about them and, your relationship with them. Now, what I want to do is spend a bit of time addressing some of the comments that were read out on that video yesterday. And I just want to bring this to your attention before we go there. I was sent this a short time ago, which was achieved in January of this year. 300,000 comments. That means 300,000 of you have taken the time over the last few years to leave a comment of some kind on my video. And obviously that's January, and now we're in April. There'll be a few more after that. So thank you very much indeed. I appreciate it. And, that interaction is what makes this community of ours pretty good. So without further ado, let's bring up the comments and let's have a look. Right, the first one is that Ball Basher. Love it. Great video, but please inform the people. Never in the last 810 years, no living men or women ever signed over their power of attorney and consented to be governed. It never happened. These guys are a private limited company. Let's expose them for real. You know what? That's a very revealing comment, because if you look up on Companies House, things like your local council, City of London, anything to do with the parliamentary estate, anything like that, they are literally all registered entities, effectively trading companies on Companies House. And when you start drilling down into the bones of it, you take a step back and you think, this isn't good. This isn't good. But that's a very deep subject, possibly for another time. I know Richard Vobes, delves into this sort of thing a lot, so it might be worth checking him out. Paul, Andy, the MSM have been a propaganda machine since the 1980s. Paul, I grew up in the 1980s and the 90s. I was born in the late 70s, and, my earliest clear memories are the 80s. And I remember like the Hurricane in 87, the Challenger shuttle in 86, Zeebrugge in 86, the Falklands. These are things that were reported, factual events that happened, and the details of. None of this media intrusion, none of this bias. And then probably towards the late 80s, I suppose, particularly the 90s, I remember the death of Princess Diana. I was 18 at the time, and I'd just woken up with a hangover, and all of the media fuss around that. That was really the first time I realised where the media was going. But back in the 80s, it seemed to be more of a, let's report this that actually happened. I don't know if you agree, but that's the way it seemed to me. David Luck, voting should be compulsory. If you make it compulsory, you'll get everyone coming out claiming communism and all that sort of thing. What we need, if you tell somebody something's compulsory, they won't do it all the more, in my view. What they need to be led to understand is you've got to vote to make a difference. That's where the first past the post system is advantageous, because you look at the two by-elections we had fairly recently, 60% of the electorate in both those cases stayed indoors and didn't bother coming out. John Cecil, we were fooled once by Boris, never again. We will vote reform come hell or high water. There's an awful lot about reform in the media at the moment, particularly criticism of Richard Tice. I had a very important conversation with somebody a couple of days ago about reform, and a little bit of backdoor truth that you wouldn't necessarily hear in the media. Again, you've got to realise the media is set up to protect the establishment at all costs, and that's what they will do. So be very wary. James, if you believe that they're going to stop what they're doing when they are legally beaten by our votes, you're naive. We saw the American election stolen 3 years ago. Dozens of videos showing irregularities that were all swept under the carpet. The same will happen here, and anyone that's got a problem with it will be cast aside as a conspiracy theorist. Maybe after another 4 cycles of that, some different methods will be adopted for a change. Let's hope so. And, there's an unfortunate truth in what you're saying. This is the establishment again in action and all the components of it. It could well just get swept aside, but let's hope not. And the only difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is time. Ginger, F5197, Tory and Labour are left and right cheeks of the same arse. Yes, absolutely. And that's not the first time I've heard that either. Adrian Thomas, the Conservatives betrayed the voters over Brexit, immigration and net zero. Yet Brexit hasn't happened, in my view, not the way we thought it would. Immigration go down the Dover, and as for net zero, making everything more expensive, and it's something that will never be achieved unless we all stop breathing. They did not screw the Supreme Court, the Lords or the Labour Party or the ECHR. They don't deserve government. If Labour wins, then the voters will get what they deserve. Reformers stick at it. Every con MP who loses his seat is a win. I'd go further and say every MP in there that loses their seat is a win. The whole establishment need to be taught that we ain't putting up with it anymore and we need change. Blue Lady, Britain First is the team for me. GB, GB, GB. I concur with that sentiment as long as it's the proper flag. This is Blue Lady again. I remember loaning my vote to the Conservatives for Brexit and it never happened. Liars they are. Well, the sad, unfortunate thing is the deal that was done behind closed doors to ensure they got in to get it done. And obviously they've been a failure. Andrew Elliott, the media, 25 years old with a degree in media studies and who, furthermore, don't read, cannot be trusted with making your life decisions for you. Avoid, ignore, reject. Yeah, I found over the course of time, if you're told something, go and check it out in a couple of different places and then make your own mind up. Again, that's the advantage of having that access to all that news. Sean Mack, Labour to give British citizenship to 4 million Europeans. I did read that. I need to look into it a bit more. It's like importing voters, isn't it? Labour will be worse, calling it says. Martin, absolutely agree. Let's make this one the last comment. It looks like a long one. So, Augustine Betzer, voting was tribal in many instances. I remember my family always voting Labour, citing that they're supporting the working man. That's in the old days of Labour. And at the same time, moaning about the number of immigrants that the government, Labour, were letting in. I view that these tribal distinctions still remain in many cases. Yeah, I mean, families have fallen out over it. For me, I never voted Labour as I joined the army and saw the results of the Labour government. Today, I couldn't tell you the difference between these main parties as they both fight for minority groups who have their heads up their backsides. Greens, trans, religious groups, environmentalists, you name it. They want it all with a vast majority of us. They just want a decent country and not have our cities looking like downtown Kabul. I've joined Reform. I know that it may mean a Labour government again, but there'll be another election. We need some voices in Parliament that will represent our views. And so I'm going to vote reform for every part of government they stand for over the coming years. I've seen very disturbing forecasts that Labour are going to wipe the Conservatives from existence, and to have people like Starmer and Angela Rayner in positions of authority, even Diane Abbott. Ooh, no, it really horrifies me to the point I think, is it all lost? When you talk about tribalism with voting, you're absolutely right. I mean, I come from a conservative voting family, and that's what I did because that's all I understood. And then you fly the nest, and then you learn and see what life's about, and you start to think different things, don't you? And it leads you down the path. Me, I'm homeless politically. I think I know what I'm going to do. In fact, I'm fairly certain what I'm going to do. But a lot of people were in the same place, and you have to get out of the mindset. What's the point? You have to think, well, there is a point. I can change it, and I damn well have to try. Well, with that, that's the last comment. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to what other people have to say. Always great thing on this channel. Please make sure you hit the like button. That helps the algorithm spread this. Subscribe to the channel and share the hell out of this stuff on your social media channels. There's another video popped up here just now. As always, I look forward to talking to you again soon. Toodaloo.